rise and pledge allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Do a roll call. Alderman Volkart.
Here.
Alderman Bradford.
Here.
Alderman Vera.
Here.
Alderwoman Old.
Here.
Alderman Wilson.
Here.
And Alderman Lewis.
Here.
Approval of November 1st, 2022 meeting minutes. Can I get a motion, please?
I'll make that motion.
Can I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Approval of the agenda.
I'll make that motion.
Can I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Special items, none. Appointments to the board of commissions, none. Scheduled public comments, none. Public hearing, none.
Can we pause
No.
for a minute? Can I ask a question? I know we have the board that we need people on, and
Two of them.
okay, what's the status of that?
T&Z and board adjustments.
Megan and Clayton, and no luck.
No luck.
It's been on Facebook, it's been in the newspaper, been on the website, been mentioned at every organizational meeting that I go to.
Okay. And there's no... A question for the city attorney. Is there any sort of, you have to be a resident, is there any leeway, like if you own property, or if you're a taxpayer, like is that requirement in a statute, or?
Specifically for Board of Adjustment.
I don't know off the top of my head. I know that this has come up, and I don't know specifically. If I can find out pretty quick.
I know of someone who is interested but is not a resident of the city. So I would be, and I think there are other folks, and I think we could put stipulations like in a certain radius, community members.
When I was on the board of
You had to be a resident?
adjustments, you had to live within the city limits.
Okay, and maybe that's the case, I don't know. I'm just thinking, I mean, if there is a way to expand eligibility, I know there are people who live awfully close to the city limits who might be interested, so.
They can submit a voluntary annexation
I can
application.
say how close.
They'll need to run a sewer line.
Same thing. How close?
Taking a sewer line for a board of adjustments.
Have we contacted the folks who like previously ran for city, like Board of Alderman and stuff?
I can't speak to when the last time Board of Adjustment was filled.
I don't think it's ever been filled.
Well, Chris Martin and I were on the Board of Adjustments back when I first lived here the first time.
I know in 2019 there was 2 individuals on the board.
No, we've had a full board. We've had 5 members plus 3 alternates before. They just don't meet that often.
It's like a
They
one-time
lose
year.
their, yeah, they don't.
Okay.
It unfortunately serves an important role, so we need it filled.
And this is very common. I'm looking at the Board of Adjustment statute right now. Because Board of Adjustments are inactive, it's not uncommon for them to not have a full membership. They may not meet for 3 years, and then you realize someone's moved or died or moved on.
Mm-hmm.
You generally have staggered terms. The statute requires that, but that usually gets defeated because people, seats have been open and not repealed. So that does happen frequently. I haven't yet found a requirement that you must live in the city, but I'm still looking.
Thanks. That was my question. Thank you.
I'll do it if somebody runs against me first.
That's your,
One sign it.
That's for Board of Adjustment.
89, 90. Okay. Well, helps.
Unfortunately, there's not a statute reference under the membership.
So they don't have to be city.
I mean, it would not be prudent to have a non-resident on the Board of
Yeah,
Adjustment.
no.
Because that is a very, unlike P&Z where they're an advisory board, the buck stops with Board of Adjustment, so if they make a decision that is not in the best interest of the city because they're not a resident, then there's nothing we can really do about that, aside from taking the decision to court.
Okay. The Board of Adjustment shall consist of 5 members who shall be residents of the municipality except as provided in section whatever.
I suspected that.
So section whatever says if you have an airport and you don't. So, shall be residents of the municipality. I'm sure that means
Yep.
your address is in the city limits.
Yeah.
Okay.
Sorry. But that is BOA. You'd asked about P and Z, perhaps that's different. I will check that now.
Okay. We can go on and you can fill me in later.
Maybe 9310 as well.
And 310, check.
Introductions and first readings, Council Bill Number 2022-030, an ordinance extending the corporate limits of the City of Ashland, Missouri by annexing unincorporated area, directing the city clerk to give notice of the annexation. Your staff report, please.
Nothing much on this one. We've had the public hearing. Your findings memo is in your packet. We find this property to be congruent and consistent with our corporate limits and necessary to the proper development of the city. We've had our 14-day protest window, so we are now in a position to handle the first reading of this ordinance. In terms of rezoning, we are still waiting for them to put the ink on the formal rezoning submittal. It is proposed that we will rezone it to airport industrial, which is the same zoning classification as the adjacent properties and is congruent with the current use. But the ownership is in St. Louis, and it's just hard to get them to sign the form. So we're going to evaluate what it would take for us to just hold the hearing and annex it of our own accord without the voluntary petition. A few more steps involved there, but if they continue to fail to submit the form, that's what we'll look at doing.
Any questions for staff? All vote. Alderman Lewis.
Aye.
Alderman Wilson.
Aye.
Alderman Old.
Aye.
Alderman Bell.
Aye.
And Alderman Bradford.
Aye.
Alderman Brookhart.
Aye.
Do we have a motion and a second?
I don't think we can have a second on
I
that.
was gonna say I missed that whole thing. You did.
I was pulling up the staff report and didn't get one.
Okay. Well, can we have a
Rerun it.
motion second first?
Sure. Can we have a motion approving Council Bill Numbers 2022-030, an ordinance extending the corporate limits of the City of Ashland, Missouri by annexing unincorporated area, directing the city clerk to give notice of the annexation. Can I have a motion?
I'll make that motion.
Can I have a second, please?
Second.
One more time. Alderman Brookhart.
Aye.
Alderman Bradford.
Aye.
Alderman Bell.
Aye.
Alderwoman Old.
Aye.
Alderman Wilson.
Aye.
And Alderman Lewis.
Aye.
Council Bill Number 2022-031, an ordinance authorizing the appropriation of funds to certain accounts within the fiscal year 2022-2023 budget. Staff report, please.
So as you can see in your packet, your budget adjustment report is a lot different than it used to be. The software configuration for the new financial software is going along really well and almost complete. A couple things that I wanted to kind of address with this budget adjustment report is that unlike previous reports you've had, revenues will show as negative or credit balances in the new software. Expenses will show as positive or debit balances with negative or credit adjustments. And the computer maintenance, what we're looking at for most of it is just some slight increases in revenues and some slight decreases in some expenses. Computer costs is one of the bigger ones, and that's due to the increased cost of this configuration, and then we had to pay for 2 quarters for the legacy system. Billing supplies for the utility billings has gone up considerably. Paper, postage, envelopes, all of that has raised more this fiscal year than we anticipated. We did just get new health insurance, which has lowered the cost of our health insurance in some of our areas and in some of our funds. So overall, it looks really good. The amendments are including not just the budget adjustment report, but also amendments to the park and stormwater fund. So we were able to separate each fund. So there is a park fund now, and there is a stormwater fund. The fund balance was split 50-50 between both funds as dedicated in a previous ordinance. And then the current revenues and expenses for the fiscal year were split 64-36. So they are now two separate entities, and every time the tax comes in, it's split accordingly, as well as expenses. So far, we are budgeting that $37,000 will be paid out of the general fund balance, but we're kind of optimistic that the revenues will come in to cover that. $35,000 out of the court fund will be paid out of the fund balance by the end of the fiscal year, but you have to remember that does include the $50,000 that we transfer to the police fund, so that's what puts that over. We're looking for the parks to contribute about $25,000 to their fund balance, their existing fund balance right now. There will be some additional amendments to that park. James and I need to get together and talk about the grant reimbursements that are going to come in now that the ball field project is underway. And then we're looking at stormwater getting an increase of $22,000, streets getting an increase of $74,000, which is good because, as you know, their fund balance depleted quite a bit in the last couple of years, so this will help them get back up to where they need to be. Water, we're looking at contributing $149,000, trash $34,000, sewer $62,000, and capital $2,000. In January, there'll be some additional amendments. We're completing the configuration to the ARPA fund. We've separated that money out, so there'll be revenue and expenses in a separate ARPA fund for those. So those will be in January's amendments. And then we'll be closer to the end of the fiscal year, so we'll be able to kind of predict more closely how things are going to pan out. But other than that, it looks really good. The department heads have been very prudent with their spending, and we've looked at other ways to be able to save money, and we've been lucky to have some revenues come in. Our interest with this pooled cash, when you authorized the pooled cash, we moved our finances into the main bank account, so that sweep that comes in and out daily has increased our interest quite a bit, and it's dedicated across all funds. The percentage goes to all funds, and we were able to also have a new fund balance policy written. Kyle wrote that, and then we were also able to take some funds out of the fund balance and move them into restricted accounts within the software for the different departments, so we all have the right emergency funds on hand.
Any questions for Shelley? I'd say it's a lot cleaner. I like it.
I do too.
And it's a lot organized. I mean, I love the organization of it. Where they split everything up. Looks a lot nice, so. All right, no questions. Can I get approval of council, can I get a motion to approve the council bill number 2022-031 and ordinance authorizing the appropriation of funds to certain accounts within the fiscal year 2022 and 2023?
So moved.
Can I have a second, please?
Second.
Alderman Bocart?
Aye.
Alderman Bradford?
Aye.
Alderman Bell?
Aye.
Alderman Old?
Aye.
Alderman Wilson?
Aye.
Alderman Lewis?
Aye.
All right. Old business, ordinance number 1418, ordinance authorizing the appropriation of funds to certain accounts within the fiscal year 2022-2023. Same thing, basically?
Can you repeat all that?
Yeah, I want you to, yeah.
I could talk for hours.
Just to refresh.
I could talk for hours if you want me
Yeah,
to.
Just to refresh our memory.
Do we get a motion to approve ordinance number 1418, an ordinance authorizing the appropriation of funds to certain accounts within the fiscal year 2022 and 2023?
I'll make that motion.
Can I have a second?
Second.
Alderman Lewis?
Aye.
Alderman Wilson?
Aye.
Alderman Old?
Aye.
Alderman Bell?
Aye.
Alderman Bradford?
Aye.
And Alderman Bogart.
Aye.
All right, new business, a resolution authorizing the purchase of bulk sodium chloride.
So, Mr. Mayor, members of the board, this, resolution that you have before you tonight is regarding our annual purchase of road salt. bulk sodium chloride for the upcoming winter season road treatment process. We have, back in 2021, we joined the Mid-Missouri Public Purchasing Cooperative, which is between Boone County, City of Columbia, University of Missouri, Hallsville, and Centralia. We were really the only community that wasn't involved. That through a cooperative bid process, purchases salt to get better pricing for everybody. With that, we have agreed to purchase salt from the contractor or the awarded vendor, who is Independent Salt out of Kannapolis, Kansas. And the pricing is actually really fair, particularly considering the climate this year of material and market volatility. This purchase for our initial pre-fill is for 200 tons, which should be more than enough to carry us through. We do have a backup purchase option for an additional 25 tons. I do not anticipate needing that unless it is a really bad winter. We will order, upon approval, we will completely submit that order for 200 tons. But as was the nature with bulk material purchases, you're at the mercy of the scale house operator. So sometimes you come in a little over, sometimes you come in a little under. The goal is 200 tons. So that's why you see in this resolution requested authorization for up to $17,219.25 for that 200-ton order. That gives me a 25-ton window for any overflow.
Is that enough?
That should be more than enough.
Any questions for James?
Do you remember offhand what we paid last year?
I know it was in the 70s, so it was in that same range. I don't recall what we paid for certain. I have to go back. We did a separate bid because last year we tried to get into this alliance or into this purchase cooperative last year, but it was too late and the vendor would not allow us to join at that point. So they allowed us to join later in the year, but we had already completed our own bid and purchased.
Any other questions?
Now, they are not requiring you a maximum or a limit or a amount.
There is under the agreed upon pricing. You know, so the way that works is you put in your anticipated orders several months in advance. So back in late spring, early summer, I put in for 200 tons on pre-fill and up to 25 tons for replenishment. Typically, we go through in the neighborhood of 150 tons a year for an average winter. My first year, we had a fair amount of stockpile, so we didn't need to do a whole lot that year. We purchased Cargill. But I have no concerns that this won't be enough. Currently, we have approximately 30 to 40 tons on hand for any storms until this is delivered. So all said and done, we have the ability to have over 250 tons. So all said and done, and again, I think that our typical average usage is between 100 and 150 tons per year.
Any other questions? Can I get a motion approving the resolution authorizing the purchase of bulk sodium chloride?
I'm gonna make that motion.
Alderman Lewis?
Aye.
Alderman Wilson?
Aye.
Alderwoman Ode?
Aye.
Alderwoman Bell?
Aye.
Alderman Bradford?
Aye.
Alderman Booker?
Aye.
Alright. Moving on, a resolution to approve the revised site plan for Baptist Home. Staff report, please.
We have tonight is just a revision to the original site plan that was done back in 2017. And it's for Baptist Home. Baptist Home sits north of town, just west of 63. Everyone knows where it is. The owner of the property is Baptist Home, and the submitting engineering firm was Allstate Consultants,
and city engineer, John Conway, reviewed these revisions. So, the total site is 70 acres. What is being revised is approximately 6 acres. And the revisions sit on the southwest side of the property. And back in 2017, when it was originally proposed, there was going to be a 49,000 square foot community center. And what they've revised it to be is now an assisted living nursing home of a total of 53,850 square feet. So it's before you tonight because the revision under city code, any change to the site plan of more than 500 square feet to a building requires approval. After careful consideration, staff recommends the approval of the submitted site plan as it is met city code and was approved by the Planning and Zoning Commission at the November 8th meeting.
Did P&Z have any issues or any questions, or, no? Okay. Any questions for staff? Can I have a motion a resolution to approve the revised site plan for Baptist Home?
I'll make that.
Can I have a second, please? Alderman Bocart?
Aye.
Alderman Bradford?
Aye.
Alderman Bell?
Aye.
Alderman Old?
Aye.
Alderman Wilson?
Aye.
And Alderman Lewis.
Aye.
A resolution authorizing the mayor to execute a memorandum of understanding with the Southern Boone School District and YMCA.
Mr. Mayor, members of the board, this is, as you all approved, the acceptance and signing of the TAP agreement a couple of months back. This is the memorandum of understanding between the Southern Boone School District, the Southern Boone YMCA, and the city of Ashland for that project, and that the city will handle the financial management of that project. That those two entities will submit their matching funds on the front side so that there is operating capital for the project to proceed.
Any questions for James? None? I have a motion for authorizing the mayor to execute the memorandum of understanding with the Southern Boone School District and YMCA.
I'll make that motion.
Can I have a second?
Second.
Alderman Lewis?
Aye.
Alderman Wilson?
Aye.
Alderman Old?
No.
Alderman Bell?
Aye.
Alderman Bradford?
Aye.
Alderman Bocart?
Aye.
Moving on to reports, mayor's report. We are doing a Christmas luncheon on December 16th, is that right, Kyle?
That is correct.
All right. Potluck. I did mention it to the P&Z board, or park board, last night, and they was asking if we're gonna send out a newsletter to all board members.
Yep, Leslie is cleaning up the Excel spreadsheet that we use for our staff luncheons, and she'll be sending that out tomorrow.
Make sure we include P&Z and
Yep.
all those guys, appreciate that. Mr. James, water fountain at the park. A young lady contacted me about a water fountain being removed.
Yes, sir, that occurred during the park board's direction for the mural. That fountain was no longer serviceable. It had been leaking for quite some time, and the decision was made to scrap it. We do anticipate at some point in the future the installation of two water fountains on that same structure. They'll be on the north side. That'll be when the trailhead is moved to between the playground and the existing restrooms, and then there will be ADA ramps for people to exit from the parking lot through that area, and then you'll have, you see them pretty typically, one is higher and then one is an ADA compliant. So at some point in the future, those will be installed, but that's another project for another day.
Gotcha. And then Kyle, if you'll get with Gabe on the speeding on 530 Commerce, just...
Yeah, so he's in the middle of his traffic study for Liberty,
Yeah.
so I was gonna propose that once he's done wrapping up that traffic study, he'll have his radar free, that he can be moved over there.
Gotcha, I'll let her know that. And that is all of my report, thank you. City Administrator report.
Today, Shelley processed the first payroll in our new accounting software, which also included the new time card submittal. We have online time card submittals for everyone right now, so it kind of makes it a little easier for them to keep track of their time. We have uniformity across all departments instead of various Excel spreadsheets for each department. Our leave requests are now done online, so it allows them to fill those out, and it actually populates it to a leave calendar that department heads can look at, or I can look at, and save it to my Outlook calendar as well, so we're tracking on those well ahead of time. But payroll was processed. Am I getting paid on Friday?
You are getting paid on Friday.
Other than that, obviously, we've got the Boone County Municipal Government Dinner on Thursday evening, for those that have RSVP'd to it. The Park Board did finalize the plans for the parade, and that's been posted to Facebook, so feel free to start sharing that. There's no sign-ups required for the parade, just show up at the allotted time. That's the first Friday of December, with lineup starting at 5:30. Sounds like they do some sort of float contest as well, so there'll be some judging prior to step off there.
6:30?
6 is the judging and 6:30
Is the
step off.
Step off,
Yep.
okay.
Followed by the tree lighting in the park, so that will remain in the park this year. Public Works is working on decorating this building, figuring out how to make the old decorations work for this facility, so they're gonna be working on that apparently. Found them stomping around on my roof earlier, so. Other than that, I don't know that I have anything else right this second.
Back up, quick question. Talk about vacancies on boards. I know Lauren is on the Board of Adjustments. Could he attend the P&Z meetings, and could he count as a vote?
No, we're
Could
not
he
gonna.
count as a vote?
No, and you know, I would, you know, if the board wanted to, certainly entertain switching him over, but we desperately need bodies on Board of Adjustment. We're gonna have at least one thing that needs to go before the Board of Adjustment over the winter months, so we really need to.
The statute for P&Z, somewhat annoyingly, doesn't say resident like the Board of Adjustment. It uses the word citizen, but I'm not inclined to get cute with that. You need to live in the city, I'm sure. You're just asking for a legal challenge. You can't have P&Z and Board of Adjustment because it's an appellate body. I don't know that you couldn't have, say, somebody from the Park Board, for instance. You know, something that's not related to zoning, you could conceivably serve on too. Similarly, it's not against the rules for one of you to sit on it, but that's not a very good idea, because you ultimately might rule on something. But I would be inclined to suggest, if it was an emergency, leaning on a member of some other board or committee that has nothing to do with zoning. You know, listen, and then the sales pitches, this is extremely light work. You will meet once in a year. That has to happen. But that's my immediate response. So I know that you said you had some friends, Stephanie, who had some connection to the city, but I wouldn't chance it. I did run through the cases. There's nothing to suggest that if we absolutely had to, but I would be very...
I do like the idea of emailing the former elected officials, considering it is a very low ask. Those ones would have a general understanding of city function, so
Or the 8 people who were on it before,
certainly.
maybe.
Some of them
Maybe
have
if
to
they had
wait, some have moved out of town.
Yeah, I was gonna say, maybe if they had a break, they'd come back.
Old Mike Freeze got tons of time. I was thinking he could do it.
Sure he'll comment on the YouTube post tomorrow.
Hopefully he says go for it.
City Attorney's report.
Yes, I have lots of stuff for y'all about Amendment 3. That's recreational marijuana. That passed. So a couple of things are gonna happen. We have been working through our towns, getting a revised ordinance. We'll have that for you at our next meeting. I'll put it on and get it to Darla well before that, so you have a chance to look at it. We have already written, Nathan's already written the sales tax, language, so that's ready to go. I just need to put action on it. You all get to have a 3% sales tax on the sale of recreational marijuana. That has to go on the ballot before January 24th. You have to approve putting on the ballot. Here again, I'll have that ready to go for our next meeting for you all to consider it and vote on. There is some provisions in there that make you eligible for an expungement if you have a prior conviction for marijuana. OSCA, which is the state agency for the court system, has determined that does not apply to municipal courts and municipal stuff. So you all are off the hook for that. The bill will become effective on December 8th. There is some disconnect between medical marijuana and recreational, but the date that people are going to be interested in is February 6th. That's when recreational marijuana will become available. We've had folks calling pharmacies and police stations wondering about all that. The chief's not here. There is a provision. The whole thing is 28 pages long. It's full of crap. But there's several provisions about search warrants. The city police department will be required to produce statistics relevant to search warrants on drugs. They already do this for traffic stop statistics. Similarly, they're going to have to keep these numbers and turn them over to the Attorney General's office for a yearly report. I've already written a memo that explains all that. So, in summary then, at the next meeting you'll have a new ordinance for your possession, a sales tax ordinance. I will have given the thing to the chief about the search warrants.
Do you have a model, not for rec, but for medicinal zoning?
We do.
Because we have not yet adopted that. We can certainly wait and do them both at the same time. But
Yep. So one of the things that the amendment contemplates is that there will be theoretically still recreational-only facilities, medical-only facilities, and then enterprise facilities that are both. Obviously, most places are going to be both. Do you all have a dispensary in Ashland right now?
No, but I'm curious to what the sales tax, if we would be able to get one zoned within the city limits, the sales tax that it generates, can it go to anything, or is there a limit on what the sales tax can go on?
you have to put a purpose in the order.
Well, let's
Yeah.
see here. Like I said, Nathan's the one that put together it for the whole firm, frankly. I'm just looking at it right now. This is the generic one. It's not specific to Ashland. Qualified voters. A local sales tax of 3% for general revenue imposed on the receipts of the sale of adult use marijuana sold at retail within the city's corporate boundaries.
I just feel like weed for streets.
That's what I was thinking. Well, that's what I was thinking.
Is there a cap on it? I mean, can you go over 3%?
I don't know.
Can't you just grow it an extra 3, and that's on top of traditional
Yes.
sales tax as well?
What about the learning garden, can they do?
I mean, candidly,
They have to have a license.
You know, that'd be awesome.
What about the home-based businesses?
So, I mean, I've been focusing on, for the firm, the law enforcement stuff, and the search warrant thing is the things about reporting the, there's some provisions about lawyers getting their licenses in trouble for opposing it, which is crazy. But anyway, it did pass. I will have those materials ready. You know, it's coming, it'll be popular, I'm sure, so y'all want to pass all these things. I can look at your zoning provision. If you want to do zoning now, we can.
Well, we need to wrap up land use development code update. I would hate to approve it and not have it approved with the right section references, so have it in the wings, and we can get to it after the first of the year.
Sure. There are provisions about facilities for manufacturing and processing. I don't know if Ashland will have any of that. Nathan and I have been working on, our ordinance is about 20 pages long. It's that we've been trying to come together, so it addresses lots of things that may or not be relevant to Ashland. But we'll go ahead and put it on your books and be ready to go.
Harvest stuff.
There is one other matter that pertinent to this, and it just kind of depends on what you all want to do. We have some communities, clients that are very opposed to the use of marijuana and have been fiddling around with the idea of smelling marijuana as a nuisance violation to make it very difficult to smoke marijuana anywhere other than your house. I don't know if that appeals to you all or not. We have been fiddling with it. I'm not saying that we're happy with it, but we have made that option available. So, something to consider.
Does no smoking ordinances as they currently stand, would that translate to smoking of marijuana?
Right, so, that's one of the things that you can't, so let's suppose you have a restaurant that says no smoking. You can't light a joint. They probably can sell marijuana-laced food. And so we have written in provisions into our ordinance to address that circumstance. If you wanted to have marijuana-laced pancakes, you can do that. But no, there's smoking bans. You know, you probably have it in restaurants, bars, city, public buildings, that sort of thing. But one of our clients said, listen, if you can smell the marijuana, at a distance of more than 50 feet, it's a nuisance. And that's a common criteria for nuisance ordinances for bad smells. Again, the object of that is to try to curtail people who go back on vacation to New Orleans or Vegas report the whole city smells like marijuana.
Noxious fumes is already enumerated in our nuisance abatement.
Well, we've got noxious fumes as defined as marijuana at some distance. Again, I just suggest this. This will probably be more of a problem for Columbia if there are college kids in you all, but I just mentioned it as something we've been toying with. There are lots of details to this. I will get you the ordinance as quickly as I can. Give it a good look. Some of the things are relevant, some of them are not, but we've been spending a lot of time trying to sort all this out. But the big one is the tax, because there was a deadline to get that on the ballot. And like I said, we've already got model language. You just need to get it modified for Ashland. So.
If we don't, where does that tax go? Because it's gonna be taxed, right? I mean, if it's sold.
We'll still get conventional sales tax, we just won't get the bonus 3%.
Right. And it's not a one-time shot. If for some reason you do not pass the tax, you could put it on the next ballot. But if you want it on the February ballot, we gotta get it passed by January 25th. So.
And now, like in some instances with,
April ballot, I'm sorry, excuse me, the municipal ballot. Speaking of which, I said this last time, whoever's up, you got it filed between December 7th and 27th. So filing's coming up. What was your question, I'm sorry? Yeah.
like with alcohol, you've got to have it so many feet away from schools. Is it
Yeah.
the same with this?
There is, the amendment goes on at some length about how that distance is calculated. When you normally think about these distances, it's as the crow flies, but it actually wants us to use walking distance, and it's calculated from the entryway of a building. So, without getting too far into the trigonometry, there are circumstances under this amendment where you could have a dispensary pretty close to a school, depending on where the doors are and how the crosswalk works and so on. It is one of the changes. Virtually every provision has been written to the extreme benefit of this, but there is a distance provision, but because they changed the way this is calculated, there will be towns where people are gonna think that it's a violation. You know, you'll have a catty corner to a school or a church, a dispensary, and they'll be legal because of the way they calculate distance now.
What about use? Like, is the city park gonna be a problem being situated close to?
No, I don't actually know off the top of my head, but I imagine you have a no smoking provision for your city park. That would cover it automatically. It's illegal right now to stay illegal.
We also have a provision that says you gotta leash your dog, and that guy goes there every day without a leash on his dog.
It doesn't enumerate leash, it's under owner's control.
Well, we should have a leash.
I've
You
looked
don't
into
have
it.
to have your leash, dog on a leash?
It does not specify like 6-foot leash, 10-foot leash, anything. It says under owner's control.
Where does it say that?
Probably right here in the code enforcement nuisance abatement.
You see how many dogs bite people? It's awful.
The other thing that I've been fiddling around with is your drugged driving cases. There is a coalition of Missouri police departments that are trying to figure out a way to get policemen to be phlebotomists. There isn't a breathalyzer for marijuana. You need to draw blood and do a laboratory test. There isn't a field test. You are going to have to draw blood. In Missouri, you get a search warrant to draw blood. You take the suspect to a hospital, and you draw their blood, typically to get a BAC, but also to test for the presence of drugs. There's an effort to allow policemen to get training so that they can draw the blood themselves at the scene. Something else I can discuss with the chief, but anyway. So that's the marijuana thing.
So glad I got out of that one I did.
Any other questions or, major concerns?
So the immediate need is we need to get the ordinance passed so we can get the tax on the ballot.
So, yeah.
That's the immediate need.
The sky will not fall if you do not have a marijuana possession ordinance. You will, because we've been doing this, we have a good model to work on. We've just been systematic. We started with our cities with lots of dispensaries. We have the tax thing already, it's in front of my computer right now, so that won't be a problem.
Okay.
It's the only one with a major deadline. Now, I say all this, somebody's gonna phone up and wanna have a dispensary here, and that's a reasonable thing to do. If that happens, that will put more pressure on our other decisions about zoning and things. But the tax is the time-sensitive one. There's absolutely no reason it shouldn't be on the ballot. Now, if they vote it down, that's fine, but I can't imagine we wouldn't have it ready to go in time. And it will be universal. I mean, every town in the state's gonna have that 3% tax. So, but if for some reason, if it doesn't pass, it's not the end of the world. We can put it back on the ballot and try again later. So.
Will the distance include daycares?
To include daycares, I can't remember off the top of my head. I know it's churches and schools. Daycares is on the sexual offender list, so I would think the same. But again, our complaint with it is the folks who drafted this are criminal defense lawyers, they're marijuana lobbyists, and they just got their Christmas list of things they don't like. And they realize that as the crow flies, by changing the math, it makes it easier. Particularly if you put your door on the opposite side of the building, you buy yourself, an extra 50 feet or 75 feet or whatever it is. And you can be that much closer to a prohibited thing. So.
Any other questions? Okay. Move on to Public Works Director monthly report.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. In the interest of brevity, are there any questions on the report that I've submitted? Thank you very much.
Moving on to Community Development monthly report, please.
We should use more of the in the interest of brevity.
In the interest of brevity. Does anybody have any questions about it?
The endearing question, when do I get my Mexican pizza?
Yes.
When you go to Jose Jalapeno's store.
So, I was told, so there's an issue I've heard with Taco Bell.
Oh dear.
Not with the building of it, but with staffing of it.
Sure.
Apparently, people don't want to work at places like that, they've had staffing issues, so I can tell you the building is supposed to be complete December 9th.
Wow.
I can't guarantee when you'll be able to get food there.
I have been told by some of the new employees that have been interviewed by the boss and Jeff City, it will be open and ready to go in 14 days.
On or about December 6th.
Okay.
I mean,
Does that not line up with what you've been told about the building being ready?
I mean, will the building be ready by then? Or
probably so, because they've been working like crazy.
So it's close. Their big issue is gonna be the parking lot, which is
Yeah.
asphalt. And they said they will concrete it if they have to,
Well, they might as well.
but that's an additional $60,000. So I don't think any owner wants to pay that.
And it's like $3.99 a Mexican pizza.
Right. I don't think they're gonna be pushing the date up any more than it already is.
The problem is when you get to this time of year, batch plants shut down. So when you're trying to do asphalt,
It has to be warm when you do asphalt for it to flow and level out.
What's up with scooters? I'm just waiting for the flood of traffic and all that, and all those problems.
So
And also, apparently, there's like lots of rumors going around.
Well, it's this asphalt.
That it's like not opening, that it's going away, that we're losing it, that...
So,
they put
as far as I know, that is not correct.
It's a lot of money to put into a building to just walk
Who
away
has
from.
time to start fake rumors about fast food restaurants, is what I and then message people about
I don't know,
it.
but find out where it starts and get them on
Right?
board of adjustment.
Okay, so can you give us the official update?
Would you like us to bring a nuisance action against these people?
The official update is, the mechanical rough ends are pretty well done, the electrical rough end has been done for a month. The plumber is not done, there's not been a plumber on site, so I don't know if that's the issue. I've heard that certain people are having issues making final decisions for the building. Good God. But, I don't have that fact. I do know that the plumber has not been in there yet for rough ends.
Does it even, I mean...
Is there
it's a
someone signed?
drive-through,
Yes.
right?
It's just a drive-through,
sink.
yeah.
For the employees, but...
They don't have to wash
They've
their
been
hands.
working all
Is-
day.
There's gonna be, I've been told, 2 employees at it, inside.
That's about right.
Yeah.
having a hard time filling this spot.
Told the employees. Well,
I know
I mean, they gotta get the building done first before they worry about that.
I know it's a dig at one side of the siding done,
Yeah.
one corner of it.
Yes.
Oh, and they got the fence done.
They're gonna get lapped by Taco Bell, I mean, it's
Oh,
just
yeah.
taking so
I
long.
know. But the
I did
difference,
see a for rent on the other property, what are they planning to do with that?
Rent.
the,
It's gonna be a rumor.
so I thought I had,
Got jokes.
I thought I had a prospective tenant there that the city would have loved, but I'm not gonna mention it now because I don't think it's gonna happen, so.
Okay,
So that's why the for lease, there was,
Definition of.
let's start some more rumors.
Right.
All right, but are we thinking like?
marijuana dispensary, wasn't
no,
I guess-
that was funny.
But I guess, so that we could be helpful to you as well, like, office rent, is that, I mean, because it was the police department, or is that like, what, if, you know, if we could help promote that property?
General commercial, the thing to consider is whatever the use is, it needs to be a very low parking need.
Okay,
But it's zone general commercial, so that's pretty much
but
open.
bonus, you could walk to get
So
coffee.
a marijuana dispensary is probably not going to be.
I feel like the dispensary ought to be located close to Taco Bell. It seems like an obvious business strategy. We'll just one shop, stop the whole deal. It'll be fine. You can keep
Well,
on.
Todd, if you have it where in that rental building, you can put it in the coffee, or you can go to
Yeah,
Subway and put it in the sandwich.
How big is that building? Like, what's the square footage on that?
600 square feet. Are we talking about scooters, right?
No,
Or are we
the
talking about the
police
police station?
Yeah,
It's, I wanna say,
1,600?
yeah, 1700.
because there were like 10 people in there when the police were in there, right?
Does it have all the police station toys to sell and?
No, so that was the problem with the potential tenant, was the cost to remodel it, to
Yeah.
make it usable for their needs.
Okay.
The interior of that, if you just envision in your head, a double wide with offices.
It's so chopped up.
Yes,
That's
it
the
is.
problem.
Okay. Okay. We can keep our eyes open. Thank you.
Be a good temporary location for a tax office as we enter tax season.
Spirit Halloween next year.
They've opened the back of Doodles in Jeff City, by the way.
Oh,
They
yes.
did?
Yes.
Oh, yes, it's wonderful.
Just incidentally. Running low on bourbon.
It's about 3 times the size of the one in Columbia.
Really?
Yeah.
Certainly.
They even have a meat and cheese section.
What?
Maybe they're gonna open a dispensary.
Yeah.
Sure. Any other questions?
I think it's,
Great work.
moving on to Board of Alderman report. Alderman Lewis.
Only call I got this last meeting, I did get a call from an older lady that was concerned that her landlord had informed them that, they were no longer gonna be cleaning her drive. And this is a situation where there are like 5 duplexes and a drive up to that is not city responsibility. So, you know, we had a good long discussion, and, you know, I thought, kind of as politely as I could, tell her that, you know, there's not really anything the city could do about it, but that she would connect with her neighbors, you know, put a little pressure on that landlord about either clearing it or reducing the rent, or if they can combine and hire it done privately. You know, his concern was all that scraping was tearing up his road. Well, if you get a private person in there to scrape it, your road's gonna get torn up. And, she was concerned about, emergency vehicles being able to get to their property in case there's a medical emergency or a fire or something like that, so. She was appreciative that I called her back, but, there really wasn't anything else we could go with. I talked to Kyle about it, and, you know, we kinda hit every avenue that we could think of. Other than that, that's all I have.
Alderman Wilson?
No report.
Alderman Old.
No report.
Alderman Bell.
No report.
Alderman Bradford.
No report.
Alderman Bogart.
I figured that Stephanie would be really excited about that flyer in the, monthly City of Ashland bill, because it actually had dates and stuff on it.
Down at the bottom.
Yeah, it had a few things on there.
Actually, the last time I opened my mail.
This is why.
Oh, your
some of the
secretary.
letters are kind of.
For all us regular folks, I like the fact that that was in there, because it kind of hit on the
Have we
dates
posted it online?
that we were talking
I
about.
think it's on the website.
Can we post it on social media?
But if we could do more of that.
The patron saint of the social calendar is not looking at her mail.
At my, like, snail mail?
We
it a
always
new
do.
pair of
I mean,
shoes?
I don't know how
No.
historic, we've always done a quarterly newsletter in the utility.
I have never.
I like it. I know that.
All I did was spruce it up.
I
I know
have
the printing
never
cost is
seen
probably
that, and I think
prohibitive
we
to
should
do
post
that.
a quarterly newsletter online where
You're not on the shut-off list for water, are you? You don't look at your bill.
The city did shut my water off one night. And we called them, and they said, oops, wrong street. I'm not joking.
For the record, that is not my department.
And it was a long time ago, but that did happen anyway.
When you
Sorry.
called, were you,
I was not on the board of aldermen, and we were freaking out, and I first posted on Nextdoor, and I said, hey, is anyone else's water shut off? And everyone's
Do
like,
you all
no,
put the
just
big
you.
red things in the
Which
door?
is really embarrassing.
It's very big or very red. But
Delete the post.
But I'm serious, we could like PDF or JPEG that and throw that on the
Let me confirm that Leslie hasn't hidden it away on here somewhere. Oh, yeah, it's right there, October newsletter.
Yeah, so I like that.
Front of the big news things on,
Excellent news in her mail.
yeah, and you got a nice little share button, so you can share it directly to Facebook.
And if we're able to do it monthly, I mean, I know it takes a little bit of,
It's $1,200 to do.
well, that's the thing, is like, I know the printing cost is prohibitive, but
Oh, for printing.
who prints it?
Whitford Shop.
Oh, I figured
The
they.
other issue is content, like I had to pull from Keith to fill 2 pages.
Well, yeah, and so that's if, like Stephanie was saying, there's some sort of digital option for just the dates, like the
So who's here is getting the chamber email at this point, because we told them to add all of your, since Farron is getting explicitly paid to keep the dates up to date for the city on city events. And who here is getting the City of Ashland events Outlook calendar that we created.
I have not seen that.
You have iMail or whatever that is causing issues, but
So I don't know, I couldn't
I'll
get the,
reshare that calendar,
we could
because
get
Darla's
automated,
added quite a bit of stuff to it.
Yeah, I have not seen it. If you download it in like iCal and then send it out,
Which
are, How does that work when we're routinely
I thought it was potentially just on the
I
outside.
think
We could do that
I
stuff
think you
and
can
stuff.
grab a link that is like a web link that then will, like a subscription link, and then it will auto update, but it has to be done in iCal, I think.
I will
Okay.
defer to Gabe as IT and iPhone extraordinaire.
Okay, and I can come in and work again. So the newsletter is on the homepage?
Yep, at the bottom, in the news and announcements.
Because last time, because I messaged you about the Christmas parade because it wasn't on the calendar. Is it now on the calendar?
Well, they only finalized stuff last night.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, holiday parade's on our calendar,
Oh, good.
so it's Santa's little workshop.
Where
Crab
do
show.
you click to, how do you get it, open it? Oh, meeting.
I mean, if you can't open your mail and you figure out how to use your calendar.
I think this website is,
Of course, now that I got this.
I know,
together,
we should not have.
It shouldn't be something.
Preaching to the choir, but we're not probably gonna spend the money to rebuild it at this precise moment.
We can check some of the tenant changes.
Board making sure.
do you wanna put the marijuana date on your court date? This is when you're legal.
This is really nice and helpful. I will share that.
Email was not from the city of Ashland.
I think it has general comment,
The pizza.
helping Stephanie's right.
I've never seen this before, but it's.
The workshop,
Benefits enrollment.
the workshop will help her out.
Supreme Court order. Anytime
It
you
was
do
down at the bottom.
They're gonna run out of sense.
The only
With the
thing,
news.
the printed, the printed version, down at the bottom, I didn't like the color.
Can,
Because it burned too much, you couldn't see them.
typically
You had
are.
to really have a bright light.
it might be like a game question, if it's kind of that, but can you, could like the holiday, or the green, whatever you wanna call it, the activities calendar, events calendar, is that something that, like, just anybody with Outlook could subscribe to, potentially? or is that too much?
Again, we're kind of reluctant to be that for the community, because you already have the chamber doing it, you already have ABC doing it, like they are the ones charged with doing that. We shouldn't necessarily be advertising private events like that, I would say.
Is it possible that they could be asked if they could create an Outlook calendar that could be
Yeah,
subscribed
well, that's
to?
why I had you guys added to their newsletter. It's not necessarily calendar-based, but it does have all their events listed.
Well, this never ceases to fail, like we've talked about before, some of the things that we have shared, that are just like all over Facebook, there's always somebody's like, that looked like it would be fun, I didn't know. And so, I mean, I just think like all the options that are available within reason to get that stuff out to people is.
And I know ABC is also looking at doing some form of newsletter as well as other social media presence, and they're doing a very good job, so I can bring that up with them.
Yeah,
One of their projects that they want to fundraise for in the spring is like community message boards, where that type of stuff will be posted on a bulletin board, as you see in downtown Columbia. They wanted to put a few along Broadway, so that is right in line with one of their mission statements and goals.
Can they meet in the evening?
I mean, I can make the suggestion.
They're already talking about it a little bit.
Are they?
Yeah, Izzy mentioned that several people have expressed that they're having trouble getting to the meetings during the daytime, and they're looking at
That's kind of
that.
how I feel about the chamber meeting, because typically I don't have my child out the door quite yet.
The assistant city admin, take him.
He's probably going to the next one, depending on how it shakes out.
All right, moving on, general comments, none. Motion to adjourn.
I make that motion.
Can I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.